Okay. Thank you, everybody. We are now recording. I was probably supposed to say some legal stuff and all that, but I'm not sure what to say, so I'll leave it at that. Can everybody still see my slides? Are they back on?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, Scott, I trust that'll work okay. I've not done it before. So, just going back through the run before I hand over to the guys. So we'll just walk you through MYOB Advanced solution, give you a feel of the UI, how it goes about things before we go into a bit of a deeper dive. Deeper dive on the product management, get into the purchasing, the shipping, and then spend a bit of time around item pricing. I've learned that we should take a break at some point for these remote ones. So about that point, we'll take a 5-minute break for everybody. Reconvene to go through customer order entry, credits. Oh, sorry, do that. Credits and stock return, warehousing, finance, and then dashboard and reporting, mobility. Craig, you also had uploading and integrations in your list. They'll be covered off at various levels during the
Yeah. Well, I think when we did that demo last week, you sort of showed those things as we went through each area that it was quite easy to do. So that's fine.
Right. Yeah. So there's a bit to work through. I'm going to hand over now to Thurunga, who'll kick off. But just as we go through, I'll keep some notes and any questions. If we do get any tricky ones that for some reason we're not able to answer on the spot, we will come back to you with a considered response. But largely, I think Craig and Dave have taken us through the ringer. Hopefully, we'll have a fairly set of good responses to go with. So, Thurunga, I'll hand over to you if that's all right.
Thanks, Rob.
I'll let you take control.
Yeah, I'll start sharing my screen. So I should get this right screen sharing. Hopefully, it should be coming through.
Yes, I can see it.
Oh, cool graphs.
I'm just trying to get your pictures. Okay, cool. Now we got my
you better prove that they're working graphs, by the way.
So, welcome everybody. Excuse me. Just gonna take. So I'm just recovering from a cold, so just bear with me. Just a fair warning. My daughter's probably just outside the door, so she might come waltzing in sometimes. Just a warning. All good. So you can see this is basically I've logged in as myself for this exercise, but I will be logging in and out to different users throughout this demo just to demonstrate some of the workflows. So this is typically what my landing page would look like. This is configurable based on the user role or the specific user. So like I said, there's some dashboards, some graphs. There could also be certain activities which you can follow up, so which you can basically configure depending on how you want to see as you open up Advanced. And so basically, I'll go through some of the concepts in terms of the user interface. I think Craig, Dave, and Julia has been through this quite a few times, so apologies if I'm boring you, but I'll just spend a few minutes just running through some of the interfaces and what are the capabilities before I dive into the actual functionality in terms of the product masters. So in terms of what we have on the left-hand side is the menu structure, or what we call workspaces. So depending on your functional area, you'll have access to the area which you do your day-to-day tasks. In terms of, in my case, I have enabled everything, so I can see everything. So usually your interface would be much simpler, including the forms which you're about to see can be made more simpler. But in my case, you'll have everything visible. So in terms of finance, you can see the workspace, what you normally do. These workspaces are also expandable, so there's usually defaults to a quick menu, or you can show all, which will show the full menu structure as well. So don't get too lost in that, because you can actually configure these quick menus as you please. So you can actually hide off things which you won't use, like in terms of if you're in your inventory section, there are certain things which you probably don't use day to day. So you can hide off those elements and they can show less, just like that. And you also have the ability to have these tiles as well, which would actually you can create so that you can just home in on them without having to go through the text. You also have favorites, which you're probably familiar with in a browser environment. And I forgot to mention, we're actually in a browser. So I'm using Chrome for this demo today. So you're not restricted by any means. So any browser, be it on any device, you should be able to access Advanced. Cool thing about this is if you actually use multiple screens, as most of you probably do, you can resize these. And because it's developed for the browser, for the web, it'll dynamically spread its layout based on your content, so it doesn't cut off anything. You notice that all the icons just squeezed into, minimized themselves. So you can basically have two screens open. You can have multiple screens open. So if you're opening a new, let's say, for example, you want to look at a new report or inquiry, you can just right-click, open in a new tab. You can have multiple tabs open on the side, and you can use the benefit of the browser interfaces, like the forward and back buttons, to actually traverse the system as well. So you're not restricted to use so you can actually just hop back, see the history as well, and go through that. So you use the browser capabilities to navigate the system. But in terms of workspaces, like I mentioned, the favorites, these are my favorites. So you can easily set up favorites as you want. So if you want a tile, you can just put a favorite there, or you can put a favorite in here, and it'll start appearing in your favorite workspaces. So that's where you can create your own workflow if required. That's the general entry there. And I've also configured my own sort of workflow for today's demo, just to aid me in so that I don't miss things and what I'm going to follow through. So I've just created this in 5 minutes, basically what I want to do today. So you can basically work your own workspace. But the other thing is you don't have to remember where the functions are in terms of the workspace or the menu. There is a search bar on top here as well, which basically aids you to search the menu as well. And that's what I tend to do. So if I'm looking for, let's say, journals, I can just type in, and anything related to journals will come up as well. So if I'm looking for shipments, orders, I can anything with that word will come up, and you can figure out what function you want to do. Reports, inquiries, process, you can basically figure that out. Looking at that, so it'll basically help you. So I said it's a universal search. You can also use that to, let's say, if you're looking at Powerhouse, is one of your customers, I believe. I can search that and go into transactions and profiles. You can see every transaction, or even the customer master, which is that, related to Powerhouse. So you can just search items like that. And even items. Let's say you have an invoice number, the customer's on the phone with you. Let's say we are searching for this 3320, which is the sales order number. You can just type that in, and that'll pop up as well. So you don't have to go through customer and find the sales order. You can just type the context which you're in. Items as well, same thing. Let's say you're searching for something like tech. I think there's a tech air, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. There you go. So anything with a tech air, it'll come up there like that. Let's say you can have two words, tech air boot, maybe not. But something like that. Tech 7 boots, you can basically do that as well. So it basically searches that, and it's pretty responsive. You can also use that to search help topics if you're stuck. So basically that's you can search the help if you're stuck in such a processing, you can do that as well. And also files. So we have the ability to store files at a record level or a or a master record level, where you can upload any attachments. Obviously invoices and all that will be attached as part of the system. But say you have any contracts, any supply agreements that you want to save, you can basically have those attached as well. And those are searchable as well as part of this universal search bar. The other thing I wanted to show is, tab, is some of the other dashboards. I'll quickly cover off in some other topics. So these are other forms of dashboards we can have as well, different formats. It's tile-based, pie graphs, different types of graphs that you can. So it's basically you can configure, and these are all drilled down. So because you can just drill down to, if it's a GL item, you can basically drill down to the GL level and the journal level. In this case, it's just account receivable. So you can go to those top customers, their invoices, you can drill down to that. And there's different dashboards at different levels, distribution dashboards, which I will cover as well. Basically showing you what's there to be shipped, and you can configure this depending on your cases. So this one doesn't have any graphs, but it basically has tiles, basically saying what's on purchase order, what's behind schedule, some amounts, some sales order to ship, and so on and so forth. So you can configure this depending on what you want to focus on. And these are some POs which are due to receive today. So you can basically say, this is supposed to not in revenue, it may be wrong supplier, but basically it's just demonstrating what it is. Cool. Any questions on the interface before I dive into the?
Not really. I'm still absorbing.
There's a lot to absorb. We've just
probably covered a lot of ground then in the last 10-5 minutes. I guess
easy stuff. Yeah.
Looking at the search functionality, like when you can find a customer or you can find a product, but when you click on that, is that folder based? How does the search refine?
So the algorithm. So there is an index which is built into the background. So not all the fields in a record is mapped to that index, but it is configurable or customizable. You can add fields to it. So that generally out of the box, it'll map out the common things like reference numbers, custom IDs, items. All of that will be part of an index, which keeps rebuilding that index in the background. So that's how it's able to
when you're searching for customer orders and things, so if you customer on the phone wants a pair of Tech 7s, you do the search, find the part number. Is there a place where you can drag and drop the number so you can store numbers on the side to then drop into the order?
Oh, like a clipboard sort of function.
Yeah.
No, so we don't have a clipboard as such where you can store multiple. It just uses the browser interface or the Windows interface you have. So it's just a matter of copying that. Unfortunately, there's no way of doing that, but you can. So if you're in a sales order, you can just highlight a number. So usually if I'm in a sales order, but you'll find as I go through the process, most of it is interlinked. So like if you can copy that sales order number and search for that. But most often, if you design the workflow in such a way that all the interactions or the audit trail will be searchable within the process flow. So I'll go through, like let's say there'll be a sales order PO link and so on, or a return order, it'll link to the sales order and so on. So most of it will be linked. So you might not have to have a sort of a clipboard function, but in some cases you can copy it as well.
Okay.
Cool. So I'll start with I'm just checking the item master. So just to give us an idea of the structure of all the entities. So if I'm going to use the menu search bar. So in my case, I'm going to go for stock items. So I can go into stock item. There it is. So I can just hit that. And this is what we call a grid. So most of our searchables, or like our record screens, are like in a grid format like this, like customers, suppliers, stock items. And these are also configurable as well in terms of filters. So default is all records, which will retrieve everything. But you can create your own filters. And these can be user-based. So for example, I've created a Monza imports filter just related to all your products, your product classes, which I'll come to shortly. So you can basically save that. If you make any alterations or added filters, so you can simply use those filters. Let's say type of finished goods, or you want to show just non-stock items. I can just show that if I have any, probably not. Or finished goods, I can just filter on that basis. I can say select all, and you can save that as a filter. So it'll appear, you can create multiple tabs depending on the frequent items which you use. So like I said, the item classes, which I come to, you can basically have different pages for your commonly used items based on product category or brand. And you can share this amongst the whole team as well. So if you untick that, it'll just be for your user profile. Or if you tick that, it'll basically be shared across the company. So I've just created another one called MI just for that with a filter.
So we can create filters down to like a brand, category, subcategory.
Correct. Depending on how we go down the track in terms of how we set up the item class structure, which I will come to. Yes, you can. Yeah. So you can basically say, put some filters around that. Let's say you just want, let's say this one here. I will actually do it as, I think we have something called mass boot, just the boots. And there just are 2 boots there, so we can save that as that, and I can just say call that MI boot, and there's my filter for that. So you don't have to keep searching for that. Just basically you can dive right into that tab and see all the boots in there in that item class or by brand, depending on how we use that field. And these fields can be configurable as well. Like we can add fields in here to show what.
How many characters is the description line?
I believe it's about 40 or so, 40 or 50. I'm not quite sure, but it's around. Yeah. It's quite. We haven't had the issues with the limits. Yeah. So if I jump into one of these items, for example, boot, I'll show what the structure is. So this is the main item. So if you're creating an item manually, you would populate all of this, or it will be derived by the item class. So the item class carries most of the variables, which is related to the evaluation methods, the unit of measure, like such as the units, and you can also have conversion factors based on boxes. In this case, I put a dozen in a box, depending on how you receive it. So you can also set up purchase units and sales units, which can be different in your case. And you can also put default pricing and costs. Also, if I jump into packaging, this is also important area where you put in the weights and the volumes relevant for that for shipments. This is also where you can upload your cross references for your supplier IDs if you have alternate numbers, and that'll help searching. Also, the barcodes you need to set up here as well so that you can do your automated warehousing functions. The other thing is you can set up your default GL account, so it'll help automate your business rules in terms of where the COGS accounts are, the sub accounts if you want to. In this case, I put 0 as sub accounts, but you can basically set that up so that you can identify your cost of goods sold based on brand or item class, depending on how you want to structure that. So you can set those rules up at a SKU level. You can also set up some blurbs around the descriptions or photographs. You can basically attach it here, which should integrate back to your, if you want to extract that for your front-end B2B platform or any other details that you want to capture here. So in terms of items class, I'll just jump right in because you asked the question. So at the moment, we've just based it on one of the sample data we've received in the past. So this is like the item class tree. So this can be configured up to multiple levels. In this case, we've captured 2 levels. For example, if I go into mass footwear, so it's basically we've said Alpine Stars footwear. That's one category, but you can basically have multiple levels in there. Excuse me. Sorry, what was this question? Nope, sorry. So basically, you can set up different hierarchies based on, and then we've just copied what you have it in, I think, in M3 at the moment.
Yeah.
Saranga, with regards to setting up products in the item master, are they able to be uploaded from a spreadsheet, or is this?
Yeah, you can. So there are a couple of ways of doing it.
Sorry, Threnga, you have to just stop and recognise the fist pump.
Oh, I did. Sorry. Who did that?
All of us.
Just while Threnga's doing that, I just looked at the stock item description and I was able to create a stock item with a 100-character description, and that was fine, and it still had more space. So it's at least 100 characters for the description.
Oh, okay. So yeah, those are different ways.
Yep, awesome.
So if I say, so there are a couple of ways of doing it. So in terms of stock imports, that's the one. Stock item. You can actually use so we have out of the box imports, something known as import scenarios, or we probably have to devise some modify these slightly depending on the structure. So this is an example of what the prepared data is, and this is from a spreadsheet. So you can basically, if I say get file, it'll show you the template which I'm using currently for this data. So this is just 2 items, but you basically have multiple line items. So this is where you can populate into a spreadsheet and use that import scenario to use the stock item screen to import all of those data sets. So it'll use the validation contained within this screen while it's importing that. So you can't actually corrupt any data in there. So if there's an error, it'll validate it and it'll spit it out saying, oh, it's probably not in the right format, or it's not complete, or so it'll validate it as part of the import process. So that's how you would bring in historic transactions and historic items as well.
Okay. So Craig, I guess you guys have already looked at the compatibility from our info and how it would slide into creating item masters.
Realistically, we were thinking about building a spreadsheet to do it, but the tools in here are probably already there to that degree that we may not need even to do that. Because like Threnga, you can do that list of products and export that list, or export the filtered list of those 2 boots as a basis and then add to it and then re-import it again. So
there's export scenarios and import scenarios, correct? Yes.
So it's very good to get data out to then tweak the list or change the list and then put it back in with just the same, basically to save the file and re-upload it again.
And with those import scenarios are configurable as well. So for example, if there's a field on the stock item screen that's not in that import scenario, you can go into the scenario and add it. Exactly. So for example, last cost, if it wasn't there by standard, you could add last cost as a field and it wouldn't import it.
So I think, Scotty, we should be able to build all of the things we need for items into that one process rather than the disjointed M3 way that we've currently got.
Yeah. Yep.
And the other way is you can use an API as well to push the data in. If you're comfortable with APIs, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
You can just have to down the track. But I would recommend using the import scenario, which is probably easier because it does the validations. And this is where Cameron was mentioning you can add fields in. This is how it's mapping it. Just a bit become too technical. I don't want to dive into it, but basically you can set that up. It's highly configurable.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
As long as there's a screen to enter, you can create an import scenario.
Mm-hmm.
The other function we deep dive is all the template items as well. So because we have the feature to create matrix items.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I've created a boot as an overall template item, which basically has attributes as color and size. You could possibly have another attribute for material if you require. And basically what I've done is I've created, so you can basically create your matrix items for your size color. So let's say you add a new color, let's say white. You just add it to the attribute list. And you might have multiple color palettes depending on your brand. So in this case, I've selected Alpine Stars color palette. Based on that, I can create, I've created a white. I'm missing these sizes, so I can basically hit once it thinks about it, and I can say create matrix items. Those are the items that I want to. So and it's creating the automatic inventory ID for that as well, based on the rules I've set, which is configurable as well, which I'll come to you shortly. And basically, it's creating stock items for that white size 42 and 44 as we speak. So it's all done that. So basically, if I go to the matrix item screen, it'll list everything which is set up in there. So there's white 42 and 44 set up for that with the standard pricing, which you can change if required. So
and
how
you also further, sorry, Thuranga, you're able to also further expand the attributes. So at the moment, the boot size goes to a 50. Can you go to like 54 or beyond?
Yep. So simple as that. So basically, if I go into the size, I'm using that size column. So if I go into that, should be able to. So this is again another feature in the grids. Like some grids have the ability where you can download this into Excel. So let's say you have a size range which has changed over the last season, so you can basically, that's just Excel. And let's say you want to. Oops, sorry, it's open up in another screen. I'll bring it across. So you want to add a 54, or let's say there's a number of lines that you want to add. You can do that like that. Sorry, I'll enable editing. Rookie mistake. And then basically just you can populate that based on your supply data, and then re-upload it. That's one way from here. So if you have that, you can load records from that Excel file. Now in this case, I just want to add just one field for 54, let's say, or 52. I'm just going to do it here. Save that. Should be able to refresh that. Might have to refresh the entire screen just for a second. So you're using the browser functions. I'm just going to refresh the screen. There you go. So you got 52 and 54 there.
Awesome.
And then you can just tick that, whichever size is relevant for that, and then create like I showed you before. The other thing is you can configure your attribute ID to depend, because that's where you retrieve the information. So I've configured it so that there's a A10 denoting the SKU, and then basically 3 characters of the color, and maybe the 2 characters of the size. So you can configure that depending on what you want to show as part of the inventory ID, and also the description. You can see the description down there. So you can basically, if you want, you can add a part of the template description in here as well. So template description goes to 16 in this case. So in this case, I'm going to just say 8. And so you can see dynamically it's showing an example of what it's showing up as part of the item description. So you can configure that. You're not restricted in any way to how you want to define that. So that's part of the design phase that we'll go through in terms of how you want to structure your inventory or SKU items.
Yeah. Thuranga,
yep.
With that create matrix item screen, if somebody's if I've ticked the wrong size, for example, and I untick it, in that screen, does it remove it?
No. Once it's created, the only way you can do that is go in and delete it. You can delete it here.
Manually delete it there. Yeah, no, it was just that we have that little bit where you'll pick a wrong color or wrong size or something, and then we have to do maintenance on it. But that's okay. That's what we.
And it's easy. Yeah. I mean, if you detect it at this stage, it's easier just deleting that, as so long as there's no transactions on it.
Yeah. Yep. Does it block you if you have transactions?
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
No, you'll only have to make it inactive. So I'll go on. That's one of the things in here. There's different item statuses, which are probably relevant in terms of the M3 has different statuses as well, or status codes. So that's where these will be relevant as well. So you can make that inactive. There's an error in that case. In terms of changing, so you said, you can, create an item in error. Thing which came, it's created there. Cool. Any questions on that? You can also, if there's an error in terms of the inventory ID, you can change the inventory ID if required. There's a way they can change the ID as well, and it'll reclassify those IDs if that helps.
That's changing your SKU, and
so you don't have to delete it and restart again if you've created a discrete item with the wrong code, and then oh geez, I put the wrong thing in there. You don't have to basically delete it and do it all again.
No,
you can fix the code, which is good. Not many systems do that, do they?
So later in the demo, Thuranga will show you how in a sales order entry how to use those matrix for quick order entry as well.
Just with regards to the item statuses, is there like just show us those again, please, Thuranga?
Sure.
Like just
so it's active, no sales, no purchases, no requests, inactive, and marked for deletion.
Right. Okay. So we can create something inactive and then activate it when we need to.
And they're very similar to M3. They're just different terminology.
Yeah. Yep.
Is there provision in this system for a super session code?
Sorry, what was that?
Is there a provision in this system on part numbers for a super session code?
Not at the moment. No, we don't have super sessions at the moment.
So just on that, Craig has asked that before, just so I defend his question. It's in the roadmap, but we can't give you a time when it's in the roadmap. So it is certainly one of those considerations.
So the way we work around that at the moment is we can add attributes to items for extra information, but also we have a pop-up text. Maybe just talk about the pop-up text briefly, Thuranga.
Oh, sure. Yes, this one didn't actually have it. So there's notes on the top. This pop-up is available for customers, suppliers, and items. So this is a normal record, but if you notice there's a checkbox at the bottom left, you can basically put in a pop-up saying superseded or something like that. Right. And every time you use that inventory item in a sales order, that will pop up.
Okay.
So it currently would recommend you use part number XYZ.
Yeah,
if you wanted to, and then down the track when super sessions gets brought in, we could then adopt that process as well.
Correct.
But that'll still be the customer to super session anyway, so that's better than what we've got.
The other thing I wanted to just mention is I think Craig mentioned about updating things in MAS. So there's a couple of features in these areas where I've enabled where you can actually update attributes in this screen itself. So if you want to say update, you can select the items in here which you want to update. So if I select two, you have the ability to, let's say you want to change the RRP on the fly, you can basically change that here and then set up a value in here and update that. So this is an additional feature you have in these grid structures. You can have mass deletions and mass updates as well. So if you made a mistake in creating a whole heap of SKUs before you had entered any transactions, you can use that option to delete them as well if required. So there's a mass deletion option, which are not enabled here, but you can basically enable delete all. It's a bit risky to have it for everybody, but it's a function. It's another way around it. Okay, I'll jump into purchasing using so if I can go into purchases. So again, this is a grid view for all the purchase orders in the system. I'll probably create a new one just out of. So I can select the supplier in this case. I'm going to get it from Alpine. So again, I'm using these mini search screens here, which you can basically search the supply in there. Or you can, the other ways, any of these search screens, you can actually type in and it'll prompt, like almost like lost a term for it. Like if you have an inventory ID here, say, it'll basically come up like that. So what did I just create? I think I created a white 42 or something like that. So I can basically pick that one up.
So do one for Tech 7s and all more.
So you can, basically search in that method as well. The other one is you can set up locations, multiple locations. So we have one supplier, this supplier I've set up. So if I go into the supplier master screen briefly, which you can tick in there, and it'll go in there. This is the supplier file punch star. So they'll have multiple terms already set up, payment settings. If I go into locations, so I've set up multiple locations depending on the factories that they ship from. Depending on that, each of these locations have their own, let's say if it's Thailand, have their own shipping terms in there, and also the lead time, which will give a rough indication of when it's going to hit your shows. So basically that will drive this promise date here. So you can notice it's about a month away, so 29th from the US. If I select Thailand, it might be slightly different. So it just updated that promise date depending on what those settings are. So it'll just keep you in the loop. So depending on where it's coming from. You can also, Cameron mentioned, you can use the matrix item to enter SKUs. So if I say add matrix item, select the product which you want to, which is the boot, the warehouse which you're using today, just one, and there's a matrix view which will basically bring up the matrix entry, and that's the matrix view there. And if you click on the display availability, you will see at the bottom what's available in your warehouse on the fly. So there's available for shipping. Oh, I'm good with that. I can put 10 of that. And if you go to the next one, there's only one unit. So great. But you can basically see that unit on dynamically as well.
Can the purchase order volume, actual numbers be uploaded by a spreadsheet as?
Yep.
Yep.
I'm just coming to that. You jumped the gun. All good. So you notice that Excel, expert Excel there, and there's the same as what I showed you in the attribute screen as well. So anytime there's a grid, most often you'll find this option where you can download it, make your adjustments, and then re-upload it, and it'll populate that grid. Okay. And if it's a common buy, typically you would probably create a standard purchase order or a blanket purchase order and reuse that if it's a common recurring thing which you order every quarter or every 6 months or something like that. But you can also have that Excel spreadsheet saved, make the changes and re-upload it.
Mm-hmm.
Easy.
Cool.
And that's where you have the blanket PO. If you have a blanket PO, you can select a blanket PO. I'm not sure if I have one set up for this particular location. Yeah, so if you have a blanket PO set up, if I change that, I have one from the US, maybe not. There you go. So that's a blanket. So that's a commitment we did some time ago. I can select the blanket PO and drop it in there as well, or a specific line or a specific SKU from that blanket PO. So that's another option to help manage it.
Can we import directly into this one rather than exporting, entering the data onto the screen via program? Are we able to import?
Run a direct link from a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
We use APIs to build that. But you can, if you went in here and created the header, Scotty, with the supplier and location, you could then have your spreadsheet loaded with items and just do an import direct. Yes, but perfect. The whole thing we'd have to API.
Yep.
I can't believe.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Or you could use the import scenario again as well, because this is an interface which you can use an import scenario.
Yeah. So you can build it to import it from a population.
Yeah, that's how we traditionally import open POs as well when you're migrating systems. So you can use that to create your POs.
Hey, g'day. Hi. G'day.
Yeah, so we'd probably build an import scenario for a purchase order and then have the right format set up and use that for validation. Yes. Yeah.
Correct.
Very, very strong on the validation, Scotty. So that makes sure you've got everything in the right columns.
Yep.
And even the API does the validation as well, because it still uses the screen logic as when you're passing the API. Otherwise, it will not post it.
Cool.
Just running through my checklist. I'm just looking through everything. Okay, so the other thing is about, so if I go to POs, if I was in a screen for suppliers just earlier, close the windows which I opened. So just jumping into supplier price book. So you can basically set up supplier prices. So if I go into supplier clients, so we could basically have different, this is basically an inquiry screen for showing all the prices for the supplier for certain items. But you can basically set up price books if I go into supplier.
Which you like our purchase agreements.
Yep. Yeah, no, looks pretty intuitive for sure.
So that's a price list you can basically look up, or you can create a price worksheet to actually set up future price updates based on a certain effective date. So, and these are fairly, this is the inbuilt workflow where you can update prices.
So
and
you'll notice on this, sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
I was going to say, you'll just notice on the screen there's a break quantity on that screen. So where your supplier gives you a better price for a different break quantity, you can put that in there as well. You've got effective dates and expiration dates as well. So if a price rise is coming through or something like that, that can be entered as well. So the price will just change when you raise your next purchase order. That's those sorts of things.
And you get promotions as well there. If you get promotions, you can basically set that up for a certain timeline.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, very similar to purchase.
Purchase promotion. Sorry, yes.
Oh, there's the other as well.
Yep. It is a similar interface for.
Sorry, John Kyoto just came in a few minutes ago. Hello. And just want to know if we can start again, agent.
I could if you're sticking around till 5 o'clock, but anyway.
Yeah, so maybe Frankie, you can introduce, or Day and Rob, introduce yourself.
I'll just quickly.
Sorry.
No problems at all. So, John, we have recorded it as well, so you can go back and enjoy watching Thurunga go through the early bits. Just very quickly, and I'll rush through this bit. We've got together, obviously, over a period of time with Craig and spent a bit of time with Craig and Dave, particularly just testing before today. So today is quite simply just to roll back what we've done with the guys and make sense of where MYOB Advanced fits. One of the statements I made at the start that I just repeat is that we sit in the enterprise part of the MYOB world. So, there are larger solutions and so on like MYOB Advanced that fit and work for businesses like yourself. I'm just going to hand back to Thurunga though, because I think just show the dashboards as well, Thurunga, or just talk about those and then we'll go back on.
Sure. Yeah, I was just reloading some of the dashboards we showed it initially. That's the part that John missed initially. So we have the capability of having, when you log into the system to view dashboards and see a snapshot of what everything's at. And these are configurable as well. And you can basically drill down to the transaction level from one of those tiles or one of those dashboards as well, to the transaction level, which would So these are into the transactional areas where we are actually going through the purchasing process. So in terms of raising a purchase order for your suppliers, I'm just running through loading from a spreadsheet. The ability to roll from a spreadsheet or other means, we've covered that. In terms of, if I go back, I'll just close that. I'll go back to the purchase grid. So I might go to sort of some of those that show you the warehousing element in terms of using we have the app as well, the mobile app, which there's some additional functionality in that. But at this juncture, I might do a put away in terms of you have a PO, which is this one. Double check. Yep. So let's assume that we want to put away this purchase order. It's coming to the warehouse. I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully this will work. Can you see that smaller?
Yeah.
I'll make that bigger, so you should make that out. Okay. Try to make it a bit more bigger. There you go. So that's the mobile app on I'm using an iPhone in this case, but there's an Android app as well. May have logged out. So there's all these elements in there which you can expose to the app. So you saw some dashboards on the screen earlier, but those dashboards can be exposed. Let's say shipping and inventory can also be visible using the app as well. I think I may have. There we go. So the same app reconfigured for the mobile app, which you can see there. So I'm just jumping into the warehouse management section in this case. I'm going to do a receive and put away. So it loads up.
So Dave, we can put away with phones.
I've got 2 phones, can do twice as much.
So receipt number, it's asking for a receipt number. In this case, I don't have a barcode for my PO. You can put the receipt or you can put a PO. So I'm going to put the, type it in this case, 0022226.
Will be better than what we got tonight.
So it basically says the receipt has created and ready for processing. Now I can scan the barcode of an item. Let's see if I have a barcode handy. Just going to open my camera for a moment. There you go. So that's a couple of barcodes I've ready. I think that should be hopefully on the PO. There you go. It's scanned that one. That's A1010, the color, I think white, and a 40 size. That's a box scan, so that's selected. I can put the quantity in if I want to, or I can just scan a location. I'm just going to put the location barcode, which is up here. I'm going straight away into a rack or bin. Scan successfully, has been added, and then I can confirm that. Oh, I can continue adding more items. Let's add 2 boxes, whatever it's worth. Oh, so it's basically say, oh, sorry, one, and scan that in. I can release the receipt. There are barcodes releasing as well, so if they're barcode saying release, the command will go through, but I just converted that. So receipt is successfully released. I'll switch off my camera because I don't want to.
Don't go under the desk. You're not wearing pants, are you?
I'll keep you in suspense.
Thank you.
Because mobile is not over yet, so there's more to come. So so if I go into that 2246 now. Can you see my screen? Just double checking.
Yeah.
So that's a 2246. I think I received that. You can see quantity on receipts, 2 receipts. I actually had 10 boxes on order. I should have completed that. There's 2 there. And if you go to PO history, it will show that receipt, which is released from the app. So you can basically go in there and see that. So it'll basically link. So again, it's quite intuitive. So it's linked all throughout the system. So you just link to the purchase order. It'll also link to, if you have any landed cost, which I'm going to show you momentarily, you can basically link all of that into this receipt as well. So if you want to, let's say, I think there was a question asked about returning goods, let's say damaged or whatever reason, you can process it through here as well. So you can process a return. Oops, I need to select a line, obviously. And you can, if you want to process a return, it'll automatically create that bill against or debit against that supplier. And you can select how many items you want to return and basically change that and then release that. It'll create that purchase return.
Short shipped or oversupplied?
That's another way. If it's short shipped, you won't be scanning it. But obviously, if it's a debit note, you'll just create a debit note against that supplier. But yeah, if it's a damaged item or something like that, or a warranty item, you can basically ship that back. So typically, I'll go to the returns process when it comes from a customer sale. Where you'll have a warranty location which will restrict your sales from that location. So in this case, you're returning from that rack itself, but you can basically change that.
Just on that app receipt process, Saranga, when somebody is in that PO doing that receipt, does it lock it from someone else trying to do the same receipt?
So same receipt. Oh, well, so somebody wants to.
There were 2 people and Dave's doing the receipt. And he's already in there working on that PO, but then I grab the and I go to work on the wrong number, for example. Does it say that somebody else is already trying to receipt that?
Yes, there are some records where there'll be a lock.
Yeah.
It'll basically, when you go to save it, it'll say this has been updated somewhere else or some instance. So there are some functions which you can actually work concurrently, like but in this case you wouldn't want that happening, so there'll be restrictions on that.
So I think there might be a restriction around the line and not the header. So it means that if person A was putting line 1 away and person B was putting line 2 away, it would be okay.
It still works. Yeah. Oh, that's all right. That makes sense.
Excellent.
So I'm going to jump into a different PO, which I've, okay, so this is a different PO, which you've done some putaways. I'm going to just jump in to show there's multiple lines in this one. I think, oops, 2104, after 2104. So basically you can, oops. Okay, so receipt. So I'm just finding a receipt with multiple lines in there. So I'm just going to jump into, so purchase receipt. Any other questions around the purchase receipting area while I'm screen?
No.
Okay.
I think we looked at it last week in with Saranga where the purchase receipt might be based on a container with 3 purchase orders.
Yes, yes. So you can create the other way. Yeah, so you can create a purchase receipt. For example, here you can add a PO or a PO line from here. So that's how you would, before, if you get the packing list beforehand, you can virtually create that PO. If the PO is already in the system, you can basically, obviously it'll be in the system, but you basically add that PO in from here.
So we can build the purchase receipt before the goods arrive, ready,
correct,
and have it ready to do the actual job when they turn up at the door.
Correct. Yes.
Like we are with shipments now.
And when the put away arrives, I mean, in this case, I scan the PO, but you can basically scan that receipt number as well. So it'll basically put that up in your gun. Yeah. The other one I was trying to show is having an item. Let's say we have this purchase receipt all completed, and you want to add the landed costs. So basically, from a receipt, you can basically add the. Oops, it's on hold. I can go into save it. Oops. No, I haven't received it. Sorry. I'll just release that one. I'll just put in some quantities there. So I'll complete that. We didn't save that last time around. So I can do it manually here as well without relying on the gun. So there's multiple ways. Save. Okay, cool. So if I want to add landed costs, it can just
What else would there
select
be?
a supplier. Let's say
From landed.
and add the bill in there. So I can select a cost code. So I can configure this depending on how the forwarder would charge you. So based on, let's say, volume or quantity. And then let's say we have a bill for $1,000. If you go to document details, it'll bring in all the PO items there. So you can see it's already built in based on weight, volume, and quantity. And you can add more POs in there. If it's already been created, it's easy. But if not, you can keep adding some POs in case they've consolidated some items. And I can save that. And you can see it's allocated based on quantity, each of those lines there.
Yeah. And is that allocation of costs done before you do the physical stock receipt or after?
You can do it before. So there is a way to do that. I haven't set it up that way. There is a way of setting up a
pre-populating the cost. Yeah. Because we normally set it up, approve the cost, and make sure we haven't made any mistakes. And then when the goods come in,
is it before you get the actual? It's before you get the actual bill, correct?
From no, we've got the freight bills or the duty or whatever. We've got those invoices.
Okay.
I think, haven't we, Steph or Julia?
Yeah.
Yep. All the billing's complete. All the charges are complete, and then we amortize, the freight costs over the shipment, depending on their volume. And then we've got so we know what our landed costs will be before we receive the shipment.
Is that going to
Okay.
take a selling
Yeah.
price?
Yeah, yeah, because that way we would look at that and then do a cross
We'll look at
check.
that before we do, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we'd do a cross check against our recommended retail price and do a margin evaluation.
Right.
That could potentially move our pricing.
So you do a kind of a pre-costing beforehand.
Yep.
Before,
Yeah, we have
okay.
costing approval. Yeah, because the warehouse put away team don't necessarily approve the or don't approve the pricing, the landed cost pricing. That onus lies with the product managers and the and arena in planning.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Okay. It looks, but we can do this before we receive the shipment, so that's.
You can create the bill
Yeah.
against that and absorb that in there. Yeah. There's a different workflow for that, which I can set up. Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm just checking. I'll just make a note of that.
Yeah.
Did purchase recent.
Can
So
Tharanga, just before we move on, in the case of having the two workflows, can you have two workflows like that set up, one for pre-costing and one for post-costing?
I believe so, but I need to come back to you on that, Craig.
Yeah, no, it's just that sometimes we mightn't get the bills.
You might have both
after we
scenarios.
do the
Yes.
goods.
Yeah.
So it might be relevant.
When we create a purchase order, Tharanga, do we, with regards to the actual timeline, the lead time from PO, is that a parameter that we populate down to an item supplier level, with like
it's a supplier location level. It's at a header level for that PO.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
So if they do 3PL, comes from the different locations, they can have different dates.
Different date, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Having said that, there's nothing to say that you can override that date in case you have some special arrangement. You can override it at the header level.
Cool.
Yeah, you showed that change before, Tharanga, on the PO where you changed the Thailand and it dropped it in at a different date.
Yeah, so I put a Thailand, let's say let's say it's Thailand, then it'll basically come in a couple of weeks, so you can change it.
Yeah.
It just gives you a warning whenever it changes. Yeah. Or you can override that, but it's at the header level. So that is the purchasing process. Just trying to check. Yeah, cool. Anything else in the purchase? I'm going to move into just the customers and then into the order entry area. Anything else you want to do?
What about creating? Maybe we should talk about creating shipments. The actual process for creating shipments while we're talking purchasing.
Shipments in the sense of the containers, you mean?
Yep, and incoming, what that process
incoming,
looks like.
Yeah. So it'll be, so it'll be virtually the same. So I think if I go to purchase receipts.
Or the actual process from a packing list, receival.
Yeah. So what you do is you can create a purchase list in advance. Let's say you're receiving from Alpine Stars. You can opt not to, so I could put a reference packing list. One. And ideally the POs would already be there, so you can basically add a PO if it's there. So I probably don't have a US PO. Let's say Thailand. PO. There you go. So there's 3 POs there. You can either add the entire PO into that shipment, or I can, if there's specific lines on that, I can add exact PO line. So you can see the lines. These are the SKUs, so I can just tick which ones you want, or you can specifically select the order number as well, like before. So I can do that. So I can create, those are the lines we have, add and close. Oh, see, we had that pop-up note. I think there's one of these items has a pop-up note. So it pops up there. And yeah, so you technically build that up here, or the other option is you can add the PO or add the PO line basically, or you can punch it in manually.
So just to be clear, there, Tharanga added those lines from different purchase orders into that one receipt.
Yeah, and that's why you have the view PO line here. So if you highlight that, you can actually view the original PO where it's coming from.
Yeah, Scotty's probably meaning, Tharanga, that when we do our shipment building, basically to create a pre-receipt document, we have the packing list, and in M3 we've built it to build it by package. So container 1 has box 1 which has these products. Box 2 has these products. Box 3 has these products.
So it's not container-wise, it's actually proper
cartonized type. Yeah,
right.
packing lists. Right. If MYOB doesn't directly do it, we may have to figure out a way of doing it like this, but then building that data around it in something. But
because we don't have the packaging for incoming as such.
No, yeah.
Although having said that, in here, that's a purchase order, supplier. No, you can't build up a package in here. Sorry. Yeah, I need to double check if there's ability there, but I'm not sure if it's the pipeline.
Okay, I've got that on the list.
Yeah. We can workshop ways around that. I think, as far as we're still identifying it's a purchase order and a purchase order line number, and if there was 40 ordered and the supplier sending 30, we're going to receive 30 off that PO line. But we just need to work out how we can then build the list to show that cartonized information, so it's easier for the warehouse team to receive. Because when you do it, Steph, you then go and look for carton number 1, don't you, and say, yeah, that's got those 3 boots in it. Tick, tick, tick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you're saying there, Craig, is if you ordered, if the 30 are coming in, they might be 3 lots of 10.
Yeah, they could be, and one boot might be in one box, and the other balance of that 10 might be in another box, sort of thing. So it's sometimes spread across 2 or 3 cartons. So they are a little bit complex in finding and ticking off the product to make sure they're all there.
But can we break that line, bring that line in 3 times with only 10 out of 30 on each line into this? So do a partial but repeat the lines?
Yeah, the quantities will be different. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same line, ordered quantity 10 3 times, as though treating that as a carton.
Yeah, so to segregate it in the receipt.
Yeah.
And
so what they're saying, Tharanga, whether an individual purchase order line is for 30, add it to the receipt, change the receipt quantity to 10, and then add it again.
Add another line. Yeah, so technically you can. It won't merge the lines. You can basically put another line in here.
Yeah.
Which is let's say 40, and that doesn't. Yeah, it'll recognize as a separate item anyway, a separate line.
Yeah. And in that receipt, could we add a field, like a new field, to be box number or
carton number?
Yeah, that may be a small customized attribute which you might use. We just have to figure out a code.
If there's a spare field or something.
There was lot serial number on the right. If that can be used but effectively detached from lot.
Is it actually? Do you actually do lots? Is it, or it's not a lot? Actually,
not at the moment. Unless you say, Steve, you might have serial numbers on your AirTech suits. Do you?
Oh, Steve hasn't got a mic.
Yeah, we do. We have everything. Tech Air stuff has a serial code.
Yeah, so we might look at serialization for those, so that you, when you sell one, you do sell the serial number as well.
Yeah, so usually by default, one thing I didn't track is the item master. You can track it by different means. So we've said not tracking for any, but you can basically track by serial as well, when received or when used. So that might be an option as well.
Yeah.
Or a lot. So when you mention lot, it could be basically, but you just assign a lot number when it's being received. So that's another option as well.
Yeah.
Where you can enter basically, but at the user end.
If everybody's okay, I've got that. We'll come back on that one once we've had a chance to consider it a bit more and talk to you guys.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to jump into customers. If that's okay.
And we could load that receipt via a spreadsheet.
The receipt, just have to double check that, or an import scenario. If I don't believe that there's a grid where you can upload like this. So it might be just using an import scenario, which is still the same. Which is fine.
Still the same answer as all the other ones. That you can always get the data in there quite easily.
Okay, so I'm just going into sales area, just opening a customer. So these are all the customer lists, similar as before. The other thing is, if you're one thing I didn't, a nifty feature which I personally like, is you can resize the grid. So you can see there's a bit of real estate which is unused here in your screen. You can just click on that and it'll fit to that screen. I find it quite a small thing, but it's really handy. Thought I mentioned that. So depending on the size of the screen or depending on the real estate. So I'm going to go into, let's say I want to check powerhouse motto. Jump in there. So similar to the supplier screen we saw before, it's like the normal customer classes. We have the statement dates, the terms which you have, the billing settings, how we set up, emailing or printing the invoices and statements. Delivery settings, if there are multiple locations, so you can set up all locations in here. And you can also set up different default sales accounts if you want to track by region and such. Payment methods can be set up, and also the contacts. I'm not sure if I set up any contacts here, but you can basically, the CRM part is inbuilt to the custom master, so you can basically add the main contacts that you liaise with in terms of sales managers or whoever at that point. So you can basically add people. So, and also one thing I forgot to mention is on the main screen, you can basically link a parent account. So if you have a group where you can basically link to motor groups, you can do that, and you can decide how you want to handle the statements being sent to that entity. The other thing in here is attributes. I think Cameron mentioned it before, and it probably didn't go into detail, but you can basically store additional attributes which you want to. These are user-definable fields which you want to add, which you want to have reminders or any such thing which are not covered in here. You can basically store that.
So a lot of our clients use that for grouping. Say, in this case, we're looking at customers. They might want to group their customers different ways by possibly what sort of shops they are or what sort of industry they're in or something like that. So therefore, and then they'll run with sales reports and profitability reports across the groups as well as across individual customer groups or states or whatever they happen to be.
So it's quite handy.
With regards to the contacts, we'll have multiple contacts to the same customer for separate parts of the business. So we might have a delivery docket or an invoice being sent to the warehouse, statements being sent to accounts, sales promos being sent to the salespeople. Is that?
So different locations, you mean?
Different email addresses for contacts for different functions of the business.
Yeah, we do have that. Yeah. So, for example, on the customer, there's an email address for where the statement goes, and then when you're doing like shipping of sales orders and stuff,
locations will drive that.
You can choose a different location, which will have a different default contact, for example, for that location for the invoice to go to possibly, or if that's what you want, if you want the invoice to go somewhere different, or the shipping node or something like that.
So each of these locations have their own email, so we can configure that depending on the scenario. Yeah.
Yep.
And the warehouse as well. So if they have multiple warehouses, you can define multiple warehouses for that.
Yeah, awesome.
The other part is the activities, which is basically the simplest way of keeping a track of all the custom interactions. So under activities, you have all the, it automatically attaches all the emails that you send to them, or sales orders as such. In this case, I've done an invoice in the past. You can just look it up in here. It'll basically be there for you to see the invoice numbers and all that, if in case you want to have a query or a complaint or not. Or you can also track emails and task reminders. So I've put a phone call which have been done in the past. So you can basically add any items in here to keep a log of that. So add a message if they called in with something. You can just basically just different ways of capturing. So call back, something like that. And you can put a date, put an owner, you can put a person in there, so it'll appear in there, to-do list or action list. I'm just going to pick somebody there, and then save. So you can make it internal, so it's just, and then it'll basically keep that. So these are all the CRM interactions which you can have history on in the custom. So anybody who takes over can see that history.
And that exists on suppliers as well.
Yeah.
CRM.
And notes as well. So I have a pop-up notes I mentioned earlier. So this one, free delivery Fridays, we've set up a pop-up note. So anytime the customer is selected, which we'll see soon, this pop-up will annoyingly pop up every time I select the customer. But that's the intention anyway. That's Craig's idea. But anyway.
That was the beer.
Yeah. He's fired.
And the other main thing is this will also derive the pricing structure as well, like in terms of classes. So we have set Powerhouse as a dealer, but there's other pricing arrangements like dealer, stockist, partner as well. So this is how we can set that up as well. But Cameron will go into more detail now, which in terms of pricing and discounting as well. If Cameron's ready to go.
Rock and roll.
Cool. So you can share your screen and start away.
Okay. All right, hopefully you guys are seeing my screen.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to, as Thuranga said, walk you through pricing. He just showed you on the customer. Obviously, by default, you can say that they are a stockist or a dealer or a partner or whatever they need to be, but you guys have exceptions to that. So I'm going to talk about how you can configure your pricing in advance to sort of match what you guys need to achieve. So first of all, if I just jump into receivables again and I look at sales prices, the first thing I want to touch on is here I've got some base prices for all these different stock items. I'll just shrink this list down so it's a bit more readable. So for these stock items, I've got some default prices at the moment. I've got effective dates on those prices. And this one here, for example, has got an expiry date. So at the end of July, that price is actually going to increase from $39.95 to $44.95. So the system will just automatically do that for me. Also got an item here, as you can see, this waterproof shoe is $199, but if they buy more than 10, the RRP is now $189. So there's also a quantity break in there also. When it comes to dealer, stockist, and those sorts of things, I'll just jump back into here and show you this area. So this is what we call a discounting and markup sequence. So this is showing me the, I guess the order of importance of the pricing, what overrides what. So promotions at the top, they're most important, followed by customer overrides, possibly some exceptions. We've got the dealer pricing, partner pricing, and then our standard pricing. I'll just jump into this to show you what the setup looks like. So here I've got a dealer that's getting 15% markup. So this relates to all customers that are dealers, and it relates to this particular price class. If I just scroll forward here, you can see that the 25% dealer one relates to 2 different price class IDs, and so on and so forth. So the 30% one relates to these 3 different classes. Now, because they've been set up this way with these different breakpoints, that simply means that as soon as I change the RRP, the pricing for dealers, stockists, and partners automatically changes. So you don't need to go in and maintain 3 or 4 different price lists.
Just on that, Cameron, for the team, that's how we've been able to configure MYOB Advanced to replicate the price list configuration ratios between dealer, stockist, and partner in M3. You know how we have the automatic calculations. Those dealer 30, dealer 40, dealer 45 are those ratios in the price list in building the 3 separate price lists. And then post that, if you're on dealer for everything else but stockist on Alpine Stars boots, it will be an override percentage that'll show at a different part on the order screen. So it ends up with the same results. And when you get your head around it, it's actually quite easy to read on the screen.
So I'll actually show you an order entry so you can see how it plays out and how these codes come through. This is the exception. So this is the exception where you've got a dealer, but they're getting the stockist markup on a particular item price class. So for this particular price class, this customer who's actually a dealer is getting the stockist level discounts, even though they're a dealer. So that's an exception to the setup in the system. We also have...
Can they get a different price on a model within a category? Say a Tech 7 boot compared to other motocross boots?
Yes, you can. So instead of doing it at the group level, you can get down to the item level if you like, and that can override a group level. So you could have that the group is 20%, but this particular item is 22%.
For that dealer.
For that dealer, yep, absolutely.
And where I saw there was a 10 price before, retail 10 price, quantity of 10.
Yes.
The retail, I don't know, you went from
199
to 99 to 89 or something.
Yes.
What we'd want is a better wholesale price, but then that's going to be based on a better retail price, but we don't want to show a lower retail price.
That's recommended anyway.
We'd rather give the dealer a price break to.
If we had a 10, if we were giving a 10 price, we just want to give a better price to the dealer, but not a lower retail.
Oh, it's a pack unit.
I saw that 10 pack before on retail. The retail went down. But can that be done a different way? A 10 pack on the dealer price?
Yes, it can. Absolutely, can be done a different way, and I've got some other different setups of those as well, including groups as well. So I'll get to those in a second. So I'll continue on, and once I get to the orders, maybe see if you've got any more questions at that point, because there's a fair bit sort of coming together here. But yes, we can set them up that way as well.
Okay.
Which means that, as you say, it wouldn't affect everybody. It would just affect maybe dealers in that case.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll jump into order entry, and I've actually already set up an order. And I'm going to change the customer quantities and all sorts of things on the particular order so you can see what happens. So this is an order for a customer that just gets RRP. So they're not a dealer, stockist or partner, they just get RRP. So this is the customer up here. Here's a list of stock items. And you can see here, here's the standard pricing. And this is the price that they're getting. So they're getting the standard pricing for everything except that first item. That first item happens to be on promotion at the moment. So therefore, it'd normally be $195. It's only $120 because of the promotion. Now, that promotion actually ends at the end of July. So if their order was dated in August, I'll just change the date. Yes, automatically the system will go, oh, that promotion's now completed, so they won't get the promotion price anymore. So you can see that there. Now, not only that, the T-shirt price actually increased as well, because the T-shirt price had a price rise coming through also in July. So it went from 39 up to 44. So if I change that date back again for you, you'll see that the T-shirt price will drop.
Yeah, and just on your comment, John, about not showing the recommended retail changes, 99% of our customers are on dealer anyway, so they wouldn't see the recommended retails in these screens and be shown that information directly. It's more in the background to calculate the dealer stockist prices here. So I think in effect, we're probably getting the same result, but we just don't show it.
Yeah. So when we send invoices out and those sort of things, you decide what they see. So if you want to show them that, that's what they'll see.
Yeah.
So if I change this now to a
Cameron,
yes.
Sorry.
So
does the price hold? Like, say we've got a shipment, we're supplying an order to a customer. We've had the customer's order has gone to back order on a certain line.
The price will hold.
The line is getting repriced on the following month. Yeah, the price does hold?
Yeah.
The price holds.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, unless you decide not to hold it, and you have to manually update it.
Yeah, good, because sometimes we don't hold it.
Yep.
But by default, it holds. All right, so let's change these guys to a dealer. So my dealer is Powerhouse. I'm just going to type in Power. It'll find them for me, Powerhouse. Now, by changing the customer on the order, all the pricing will update now, as if I entered it for this customer originally. So just wait for it to reprice it. There we go. Oh, and they've got free delivery on Fridays. All right.
Another written warning for Craig is 2 for 2.
That was the beer again.
So here we can see now that they are not getting their dealer price for this first item because the promotion is better than their price. They're getting dealer prices for basically everything else at different rates, different markups. And they're getting the stockist price for that item there because they've got an override that says they get stockist price for that item. So it's not a standard stockist price because it's got the C in front. It's a customer-specific stockist exception. That's how I've done the coding. Now, you guys will work out how you want to do the coding, and that's entirely up to you. Now, if I change this to a partner as another example, so I'll just quickly change this to a partner.
This is how easy it is to change that complete order to a different customer.
So you can
which is another benefit.
Yeah, copy the order and away you go, basically.
Yeah. So just for Tiger's benefit, if you were in doing an order, Tiger, and you picked the wrong account for some reason, and or you had a default customer template set like computer test account set up, you could do the order and at the end, Timoto Narang and redo it for that one customer. So it is quite flexible.
So now I've changed it to partner pricing. So again, the promotion is still kicking in. They're getting all their partner pricing. Now, the last one I want to show you is the stockist. Now, stockist is a bit interesting because when I change it to stockist, that promotion, you can see the price is $120.95, but the standard stockist price is better than that. So it's gone and grabbed the stockist price. So it's gone, hey, your price is better than the promotion, so I'm still going to give you your normal price. and then the stockist price is kicked in and everything else. Now, if that promotion had been lower than the 118, the promotion would have kicked in. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep. The other thing I want to show you is other types of quantity breaks. You can do grouped-based quantity breaks as well. So this item, the second item there, which is the Tech 7 black boots and the Tech 7 gold boots, they're in a group, and I've said to that group, if the customer buys more than $2,000 worth, they get a discount. So what I'll do is I'll change this to a 7. Now at the moment, by changing it to 7, that's well over $2,000. So what's actually happened here is we're getting a discount over the whole order for those items. Now, if I just drop this back down again, that will disappear, this discount. It's gone. If I change this to 4 there, so it's still below the 2,000 at the moment, right? Let's increase this. Actually, I might have the wrong item that I've set up there. And there we go.
Discounts in there. Yeah.
Now it's kicking in again.
Yep.
Right. So, and that can also be across items in relation to quantities as well. So you can have grouped quantities to say that, you know, if they've bought more than so many of the type of product, that it actually kicks in as well. So it can be amount based, it can be quantity based, all those different options. Now I'm just going back to my notes here to make sure that I've covered different things. Oh, if you've got a situation where you've got I'll just load up a different order. Let's say you've got a free merchandising type setup where someone's ring up and you're giving them something for free for merchandising reasons. Basically what you do then is 3323 was the one I did way down here. Thranga's been doing so many orders that my orders have moved way down the list. Okay, so here's an example where I've entered two line items. By standard, they're the same price and they actually have the same cost in my setup. But I've said to the first line it's a free item, and actually over here I've chosen that the reason code is FOC merchandising, as you can see there. Now you can set up different reason codes. So you might have reason codes, for example, for other reasons you give either discounts or free stuff for things.
Yeah, sponsored riders and
dealer staff, you know, sponsor riders is a good example. Now by choosing that reason code, it allows me to go for that to go somewhere else in the general ledger if I want it to. So when I set up the reason codes originally, here's a list of the reason codes in the system. So, you know, sponsor rider order, free on charge, whatever you want to call them. If I just click into this specific one here, I can override the sales accounts and cost of goods sold accounts that these items go to. So instead of going to cost of sales, this is now going to direct marketing expenses if we use that reason code. So back on that sales order, just wait for that to load up. It didn't go back for some reason. There we go. Go back into that sales order. Now this sales order has actually been shipped and invoiced and everything, which means if I click on this tab, I'll see the shipment number, the invoice number, and the inventory transaction number. So if I click into the inventory transaction for the two that went out, there they are there. And if I go to the financial details and look at the financial transactions generated, we'll see that the first item has gone to direct marketing expenses because we told it to, but the second one went to cost of goods sold because we still sold it to the customer, the second one. So on the one order, I've been able to mix and match if I want to. So all of those items could have been FOC if I wanted to, and they all would have gone to direct marketing expenses. Does that make sense?
Yep. So we can put store merchandising. And are we able to create our own fields for reason codes, more reason codes?
Make up your own.
Yeah, make up your own. That's it. Yeah, I just made that up. That wasn't in the system. I just added those reason codes myself.
Yep.
Exactly.
Steve wants to know if you need to have approval for price changes in costings. He just texted me.
Or that free of charge order. Yeah, we can automate an approval process for that, can't we, Cameron?
Tharanga, do you want to answer the approvals side of things, please?
So you want to approve the
where someone's ticked free of charge, that order gets held before, and once that's done, can we automate an approval step that it's got to go to Scotty, for example, to get approval before it gets supplied?
There's nothing out of the box because sales orders doesn't have an inherent approval process, but it may be a question of like sending a notification of some sort. We can set something like that up.
Yeah. Which I suppose then notifies the person to double check. I just saw you've given away $400 worth of boots. Was that correct? Yeah.
With some information.
Yep.
That's possible.
Good just to have a red flag in there that we can just go, okay, it's a green flag.
Yeah. I've got that as well. We'll come and have a look because I guess, Craig, if you remember way back when you asked us a question, we all sat in the room and said, "Oh, don't know about that." And then the afternoon came back and said, "Oh, actually, no, they've done it. Here it is." So we'll come back once we've had a bit of a chance to look at that one.
Yep. Thanks, Rob.
All right. So another thing I just want to touch on in relation to setting up those discounts. Oh, it's logged me out. That was nice of it.
Oh, that's sweet.
What's your password? Any questions on this? On the basic?
So I'm just going to touch on a couple of other things around pricing just before I hand back to Thuranga to continue on orders. We're back in. So you saw before I was in the sales prices. Now, as far as maintaining those sales prices are concerned, you can create what we call price worksheets. So, so normally what happens is someone would go and create a sales price worksheet for the prices they want to change. Now, they often would base that on the stuff, the inventory items that they're in charge of. So when you can add items to your worksheet, you can do it by, if you the stuff that you've got access to. So you can say, I just want, my stuff. If you like, you can choose what sort of pricing you'll be updating. Now, in your case, it's probably going to be base prices. And you can then choose which items get added to this. That's one way of doing it. Another way, of course, is using the Excel stuff. Now, it doesn't even have to come from this screen. So I'm just going to give you an example. Let's say, and this is probably not a perfect example, but I might be looking at inventory. I might create a view of inventory items that looks something like this. And I might say, actually, I actually want to see on here, I want to see cost. So, maybe I want to see, for example, last cost in here. I might want to see, average cost or standard cost or something like that as well. So I pop that across. So now my view's changed. So now I'm actually not only seeing pricing, but I'm also seeing costing. Now, if I want to, of course, I can then dump that out to Excel and use that to bring back into that other screen. Or, I could even go into the sales prices themselves, the existing sales price screen, and say, dump that out to Excel. So that'll shoot that out to Excel. And I'll just show you, I'll just change it in Excel and I'll load it back into that price worksheet. So I guess the point I'm making is there's many ways to skin cats in the system. So I load up that spreadsheet now. So that spreadsheet's got columns that were sent out by Advanced. So there's the columns, yada, yada, yada. And I decide actually I want to add a new column myself called new price. Enable editing, trap for new players. Try that again, new price. And I'm going to say new price is the old price, plus 5%, just for argument's sake. And I'm just going to copy that down. All right, so there's my new prices. So I save my spreadsheet. And now I go back into the sales price worksheets and I go, I want to create a new one of those. And I actually want to start off by uploading from a file. So I go choose the file. So I go to my downloads where I just downloaded it. There's the file that I just created. I go open, I go upload. Now what it's going to do is going to say, hey, here are all these columns in your spreadsheet. And this is what I think they mean in the screen that I'm looking at in the background. And here's your new price column. And I'm going to say, yeah, I want to actually use that new price column and I want that to go into the pending price. Okay. And now it goes up and grabs that spreadsheet and populates this whole thing. And of course, that pending price is something I just quickly calculated in Excel. So there's just one example of how you can dump things out and bring them in really quickly from the system to, to do whatever you want to do. On this screen, let's wait for that. There he is. So that's come back in. When you create your worksheet with whatever items on it you like. You can choose, for example, where you get your source price from. So you can say, I want to get my source price from cost or something like that. And also then when you calculate your pending prices, you can say, look, I want to calculate my pending prices based on, either last cost or average cost, or if I've calculated a source price or pending price, how do I want to change that thing? So I might say, look, I want everything to be, 150% of last cost as argument's sake to start with, and it will go through and then calculate everything at 150% of last cost. Does that all make sense, guys?
Yep.
Yep. All right. So, so we talked about changing the dates and the repricing. We talked about copying orders and repricing. The one thing I probably didn't touch on in the order entry, let's go back to this screen, was the ability to do an overall discount. So here I've got a dealer order. So again, we've got all the dealer discounts or markups coming through. There may be a situation where you've got a reason to do an overall unrestricted discount. So you can come to the discount tab on the order, and here's an unconditional discount. And I'm going to say, yep, whatever their pricing was, I'm also going to add another 5% discount to the order. So they get their own pricing, and I've now taken another 5% off everything. So that's how I can do a non-matched discount, so to speak.
That's for you getting Mitch.
Also at a line level, for argument's sake, let's say there was a situation where this particular line here, even though it had defaulted correctly, actually I want to do a dealer staff discount. I could choose the dealer staff discount because that's going to a dealer staff situation. And it'll highlight there that it was a manual price.
Are there?
The same order.
In the middle of the presentation.
Is everything okay at everyone else's end there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Is that easier?
Yes. Yeah, having multiple order types, or we consider multiple order types on one order is huge because it ensure. Well, I guess we've got an approval thing we have to work through. Yes. Aside from the approval process, we have to work through that. But it will, for ensuring all the goods are consolidated and they leave at once. So we've just got a pizza frenzy happening.
Concentrating, we're just hungry.
Yeah, I forgot to warn you, Rob, Taranga and Cameron, that they're going to eat in front of us.
No, that's okay. I'm just checking out. Yeah, Cameron, did you guys get your steak delivered that I ordered or not?
Yeah.
Sorry.
My lobster just turned up. Hang on a minute.
Right, Cameron, let you just finish off. We go to a break.
Yeah, sure.
So I guess just the last thing there was that quantity break that I had set up here. So of course, at the moment that's 199, and as you expect, if I change that to 10 or more, that's going to change. But as you said, you might want that to be more specific, to be dealer based as opposed to for everybody or something like that. So that's an example of that as well.
Yeah.
All righty, I think I covered everything that I needed to cover. I just want to go back and look at one last setup that I had to make sure I covered it, because I've written it in shorthand on my notes. And so this one here, what was that one about? Oh yes, okay. So this is a specific one where I said the Alpine Roots Black Tea. If the quantity break is 5 and then the discount is 50. So that's a promotional discount, as you can see, that just runs from July to the end of August. So that item there, Alpine Roots Black Tea. So if I go back into sales order entry, and I go to that's actually not my order, I've clicked the wrong one. So sorry about that. Number 9, that one. So the Alpine Roots Black Tea, there it is there. So if we buy, say 6 of those, we can see the promotion clicks in. Now that promotion could be limited to, as you said, to dealers or stockists, or dealers and stockists and partners, and not to every regular Joe. Does that make sense, guys?
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that covers what I wanted to show you in pricing. Is there any questions at that point before I hand back to Thranga to go through general sales order entry?
I had something.
Excuse
me.
No, haven't got it left.
There's one Yeah. So just one last, sorry, Rob, yes?
Well, sorry, you sound like you were going to go again.
Yeah, I am going to go again.
Go ahead.
So on the financial tab of a sales order too, the default terms come up for a customer. But if you have a situation where you need to change the terms for a particular order, for example, paying in month installments or something like that, you can choose that for that particular order. And when that goes through to an invoice, it will split the, when it's due into the 5 separate buckets as you've set it up.
Whoa. Take it down. Yeah.
All right, I'll hand
some of the terms you have at present.
Yeah, that's the function that we'd give to Julia to then switch that order once it's approved to do.
Yeah. All right, I'll hand back to Thuranga or
actually, hand it back to me.
break.
So what we're going to do now, guys, is take a 5-minute break. I'd let you guys eat your pizza and so on. It's turned out perfect timing, by the way, because we were intending to have a break at this stage. Let the guys just have a drink of water and get themselves set, and we'll come back in about 5 or so minutes, if that's all right.
Okay.
Perfect.
See you in a second.
Okay. That's me.
Yes.
We're muted, aren't we?
Stop talking about them.
Craig. Craig.
Yeah.
Nichols.
What's going on, Steve?
You guys can hear us now?
Yep.
Sorry, we haven't been talking much, we're eating pizza.
That'd be right.
No worries. We'll give us a couple of minutes.
All right. Sunny down there, Steve?
Craig.
Steve? Mic not working?
Can you hear me, Craig?
Yes, I can.
My study faces north, and so the sun's coming out, and it's actually got really hot in this room. You can't believe it's midwinter, but it actually gets really hot in here. I'm actually, I'm tossing up whether I take my jumper off or not. And I can't open the door because my wife's working from home as well, so we make too much noise to have the door open. Normally I could just open the door and let the heat out.
I was just looking out the window myself with blue sky in Ballarat as well.
It's going to be a pretty good weekend there, Shane.
Oh, nice.
Except, at least in Ballarat you can go places.
Yeah.
Is that still the case? Sorry, I'm back, Craig. Can you get out in Ballarat still?
Supposedly, yeah. I've been busy lately, but no, we're still allowed to travel. Other than Metro, we can go anywhere we like to the border.
To the border, yeah. South Australians don't want you in there anymore.
Nah, yeah, they decided they didn't like Mexicans either. I don't know why.
Don't know. Funny people, those South Australians, he said. Yeah. So I think Thurunga will be back in a second. So
yeah,
Cameron's obviously back. No rush. I haven't done this previously, but I've been wanting to just have a break because suddenly remotely you spend 3 hours and it's quite wearing versus being in a room in the same sense. Not for me, for these guys.
No, I'm back.
Oh, there we go. Hey, Thurunga.
Yeah.
Cool. I think the other guys are still finishing their pizza.
I can hang around. I'm just started sharing my screen, so
they're probably just having the beers now.
Don't show off. So, did we do customer order entry? No, we did the pricing, not the actual.
Yeah.
order.
Thuranga's just going to cover some order entry stuff.
That's right. So I think we're tracking well as well, just after 1:30ish.
Well, they've partially seen order entry because of all the pricing stuff.
Yeah, that's okay. That's right.
See my screen at the moment, or it's not coming through?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Okay.
You're good.
Too sure. Okay.
We've got Steve back as well. Didn't get pizza, Steve.
Steve's having issues with his mic and camera.
Oh, okay.
He's got his camera working with a new camera, but then his microphone. He just sent me a message saying he can't hear from his phone for the team meeting that way. Oh, that's probably his phone as the camera.
Yep. I think
and then he's got the volume on to hear it on the computer. So,
okay, cool. He'll text you any questions like he did before, I assume.
Yep.
I'll check with Scott when we come back whether we want to keep recording from here now that John's in the room.
Yeah. Yep.
As such.
Do you record the pizza as well, Rob?
I'm recording. I've never done it before with Thurunga, so I didn't want to turn it off and pause it, thinking it can't start it again or something. So,
yeah, that's a good question. Usually it goes right through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be able to.
So when you record one, I've never tried it either. Does it record? What sort of file does it record?
No idea.
Yeah.
So
interesting to see how large it gets.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering. I'll get it to you somehow, mate.
Yeah. No,
unless he fills his disc up halfway through the next half hour or something.
Yeah, you're out of drive. Yeah, you have no space on drive C.
You know what? You say that, Cameron, but my iMac does actually have some space issues.
Could easily happen.
That's all right. If I drop out, you know where I am.
We actually had a client once on a different system. It was an on-premise system, And they started getting all these errors and stuff. And yeah, their server drive was full. They had no idea, but someone had been starting to put up all these videos on that drive. It wasn't to do with the ERP system at all. They filled it up with other stuff.
Oops.
Did I tell you about my weekend, Craig?
No.
We had a favourite customer, and we do have favourite customers. You know how it works. They've got a hosting partner for the MYOB Green Tree solution. The hosting partner in Melbourne has disappeared. So something's happened, like in the data centre, over 100 customers. So they haven't tested anything. They didn't have any offsite backups. And all the things you should never do, they didn't do. And so we had the weekend rebuilding a green tree environment for them, and hoping like hell by Sunday night they could work out at the actual data side of things. And they did. They got there, but just by fluke.
Sorry. Not what you want, but good result.
Yeah, no, it was great. And you feel so good, But I'll tell you what, for a while it wasn't going to happen.
Yep.
All right, so I think the team is...
my question came back, the one I didn't ask earlier.
What, thin crust or thick?
Huh?
Thin crust or thick?
Extra cheesy. Hey, it's about with just going back to the reason codes. Are we able to report by once we establish our reason codes? Are we able to report against them in the sale?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of so with the database. Just so you know, it's a SQL database, and you can create your own what we call generic inquiries, and they can then be exposed to OData. So you can report in the system, create your own pivot tables, create your own inquiry forms, but you can also then make them available to things like business intelligence tools or Excel or whatever you like.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just asking, thinking that in the absence, if we aren't able to easily block or create an approval process for effectively a free goods or discounted goods, we can at least report against it and take that back to the salesperson, the store, and start writing some written warnings.
I was with you to the last bit.
No worries.
Now, I gather is John still not there? We're waiting on John to come back. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it might be.
Meeting. Has he gone to that?
Not sure. I'll call. You call, see if I can find him.
All right.
What?
Just in case he's on his phone.
Thrunger, I think you're okay to go over 3 a little bit if we have to, aren't you?
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, cool. Just checking. I know Cameron is.
I'll try to keep on time.
As long as I get my kid by 4 o'clock at school. But that's a very New South Wales problem. Sorry, guys. At least for this week.
Yeah.
You can tell Scott to keep asking questions like that, by the way. That's good.
Excuse me.
There you are. John's back. We've just lost his search party.
So I realised that John actually missed the important bit earlier on, I think, on inventory, where, John, if you need some new gloves when you go riding, you can just grab your phone and take them out of stock by scanning it off your phone. I'm sure you grab the odd glove or 2, don't you, for your rides?
Yeah, or 2, yeah. And it doesn't get scanned anywhere.
I thought that might be the case.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
The rule maker breaks all the rules.
Sorry, we're back.
All right. So if we're happy to proceed, Scott, you okay to turn off the recording? I'm just not sure how big a size that file's going to get to.
Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, I've got a lawyer and accountant Zoom meeting, just suing a computer company. I'm not suing anyone. But I've got a Zoom call at 2 o'clock. So I'm just going to have to step out for a little while. I'll make it as short as possible.
Rob, I think you control the recording, by the way.
What's that, sorry?
You control the recording?
Yeah, no, I'll keep it going, given John's going to wander out for a section. I don't want to have a gap if we can help it. I'm not sure John will want to sit down and watch it afterwards, but we'll see.
If you start and stop, it'll create separate. Does it create separate files?
You know what? I'm not sure, but I'm going to try it because I can.
Start.